Right now, without moving from where you're sitting, press 2 fingers into the lower right side of your belly, just inside your hip bone. Under there, where your small intestine meets your large one, is a small, worm-shaped pouch. About the length of your little finger, you've had it your entire life, and almost everything you've ever been told about it is wrong. For more than 150 years, the smartest people in medicine agreed on one thing about this little organ. It's a mistake, a leftover, a glitch in the design, so useless that more than 300,000 times a year, in the United States alone, a surgeon cuts one out and drops it in the trash, and nobody mourns it. Because here's the strange part. About 1 in every 13 people will have this useless organ suddenly swell up and try to kill them. So if it does nothing, if it's just a leftover, then why does your body still build one every single time? And why, when scientists finally looked closely, did they find it quietly doing one of the most important jobs you have? Why do you have an appendix? The answer changes everything we think we know about evolution, the trillions of tiny lives living inside you, and the difference between getting sick once and never getting better. To understand why this is such a mystery, you have to go back to the man who started it, Charles Darwin, 1871. In his book, The Descent of Man, Darwin looked at this little pouch and saw proof of his entire theory. He argued it was a shrunken remnant, the leftover stub of a much bigger organ called the cecum. Your distant ancestors, he said, were leaf eaters. They needed a large fermentation chamber to break down tough, fibrous plants. But as we evolved and our diet got easier, that chamber shrank, and the appendix was the useless little tail left behind. It was a beautiful idea. It explained the shape, it explained the position, it even explained why the thing gets infected. A narrow, dead-end tube is exactly the kind of plumbing that clogs and goes septic. And so the appendix became the textbook example of a vestigial organ. A part with no purpose, we even named it like an afterthought, appendix, the same word for the extra pages bolted onto the back of a book, the part nobody reads. For generations, surgeons who were already operating in your belly would sometimes cut out a perfectly healthy appendix, just in case, figuring you'd never miss it. But here's the part that should have bothered everyone. Evolution is ruthless. It does not keep things that cost you and give you nothing back, especially things that can kill you. And a ruptured appendix before modern medicine was very often a death sentence. So think about what that means. An organ that supposedly does nothing, but occasionally explodes and kills you before you can have children. That is exactly the kind of thing natural selection erases, quickly. And yet it didn't. Across hundreds of thousands of years, your body never stopped building one. A truly useless, dangerous organ should have vanished. This one refused to. And that was the clue everyone ignored. The first real crack in Darwin's idea came from a simple question nobody was asking. Why is this useless organ packed with immune tissue? Because it is. Your appendix is one of the most immunologically busy patches of tissue in your entire body. It's dense with lymphoid tissue. It's a major site where you manufacture something called IgA, the antibody that patrols your gut and keeps order among the bacteria living there. That is not what a dead, forgotten stub looks like. That's an organ with a job. In 2007, 2 researchers at Duke University Medical Center, William Parker and Randall Bollinger, published what that job is in the Journal of Theoretical Biology. They called it the safe house. Here's the idea. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, and you need them. They digest your food, they train your immune system, they crowd out the dangerous microbes that would otherwise take over. Your survival depends on that invisible population, but every so often something goes very wrong, dysentery, cholera, a vicious infection, and your gut does the only thing it can to flush out the threat. It empties itself, violently, and in a matter of hours, that entire population of good bacteria, gone, washed away. So where does it come back from? The appendix. Look at where it sits. A dead-end pouch tucked just off the main highway of your gut, out of the flow of traffic, and inside, it does something remarkable. It cultivates and protects a hidden colony of your good bacteria sealed away in a film along its walls. When the rest of your gut gets flushed clean, that colony stays safe. And once the danger passes, it crawls back out and reseeds the entire system. It's a backup drive. for the living part of you that you can't live without. But a clever idea isn't proof, and the proof came from a place no one expected: evolution itself. In 2017, a scientist named Heather Smith at Midwestern University led an international team that did something nobody had done before. They tracked the appendix across 533 different mammal species and mapped it onto the evolutionary tree of life. Because if Darwin was right, if the appendix is just a leftover slowly disappearing, it should show up once long ago and then fade out species by species. That is not what they found, not even close. The appendix evolved independently more than 30 separate times, and once a lineage of animals has it, it almost never disappears again. Over and over, in branch after branch of the tree of life, evolution invented this organ from scratch and then held on to it. That is the exact statistical fingerprint of something useful, because you don't keep reinventing a mistake. Darwin had it backwards. The appendix isn't what's left when an organ dies. It's an organ evolution keeps choosing to build. It was never a glitch. It's your body's insurance policy. And here is where it stops being a theory and starts being about you. Because if the appendix really is a safe house, a reserve of good bacteria you can fall back on, then there's a way to test it. Take it away, and the people without one should struggle to recover when their gut gets wiped out. So that's exactly what researchers went looking for. In 2011, in the journal Clinical Gastroenterology and Hepatology, a team at Winthrop University Hospital studied patients fighting one of the most merciless infections there is, Clostridioides difficile, C. diff. If you've never heard of it, here's what you need to know. It takes hold after your good bacteria have been wiped out, usually by antibiotics, and it is famous for one terrible quality: it comes back again and again. People beat it, they recover, and then weeks later it returns, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. The team looked at 254 of these patients, and they found that one thing predicted who would relapse, something nobody would have thought to check: whether or not they still had their appendix. The patients who had lost theirs were more than twice as likely to have the infection come roaring back, and it fit the safe house perfectly. C. diff wins when your good bacteria are gone and can't fight back. The patients with an appendix had a hidden reserve, a protected colony, ready to flood back in and crowd the infection out. The patients without one had nowhere to reload from. Their gut had no backup, so the infection kept winning. Sit with what that means. The organ Darwin called a useless mistake, the one doctors removed just in case, the one you'd let a surgeon take out tomorrow without a second thought, because you were told it does nothing. For some people, it is the difference between beating an infection once and being trapped in it. And the immune tissue packed inside it, the antibodies it makes, have been quietly training and tuning your defenses since before you were even born. We didn't just misunderstand the appendix, we were taught to throw away one of the most quietly important things our bodies make. We still call it a vestigial organ, a spare part, a leftover. We line up to have it cut out, and we don't think twice, because for 150 years, the story was simple. It does nothing, so it doesn't matter. But what if it was never useless? What if it's been working this whole time, silent, hidden, holding a line you never knew was being held? What if the only thing that was ever truly broken was our understanding of it? About 1 in 13 of us will meet our appendix only once. On the night it tries to kill us, most of us will never think about it at all. But it's there right now. The little pouch Darwin wrote off as a relic that evolution built and rebuilt more than 30 times because it refused to let it go. The safe house, holding a colony of life in reserve, waiting for the day your gut has to begin again. The quiet difference between an illness that ends and one that never does. Press 2 fingers into the lower right side of your belly, just inside your hip bone. It's been down there your whole life, doing one of the most important jobs you have, and most of us never even knew it was there.